Whoa, wow, we were. What's up, hot dog? It's uh, it's your boy and your girl from up top.
No, 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 no
What?
fucking way. No fucking way are you calling us your boy and your girl. What? Excuse me? I'm
Uh,
of a respectable age.
It's your old lady and your boy from up north,
Yeah, because Shalama is that immature.
from G Dizzle to the Izzle. It's the Germany. Is yo.
Is the
I'm
Germany.
listening to MF Doom. Sorry. I've been
Yeah.
listening to too much
It
MF
kind of
Doom. And,
shows. It kind of shows that you're embracing that 80s hip hop slang too much. And you're white,
uh,
so that's even more awkward.
well, in a way, it just feels more appropriate because back then it kind of felt like all was catered to white people anyway.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, hi. Despite a better knowledge and public reception, here's another one served right to your ear holes.
Yeah, another one of these Sunday episodes cuz actually we managed to get back into maybe some kind of rhythm.
Oh, it's some rhythm, all right. Oh, yeah.
We are gyrating to the rhythm of our hearts.
Gyrating into your inbox, by which I mean your RSS feed.
Dude, I still can't believe people use RSS feeds still, and I've never done that. And I feel like, at least in my age, I need to sign up for one, set
I'll
up
do
my
you one
feed.
better. I want to go back to using IRC. I'm done
You're
with
done.
modern messengers. They suck.
Why?
Because they're just glorified browsers that sometimes they just don't work because the servers are funky and then they don't render because it's technically just a browser and it's not really an application. And Discord is just like a gray window and it's like, what the fuck? This isn't really software. Most of this shit is just a browser. Outlook is just a browser. It's just, why do I have a million browsers that are specifically only made to show me one thing? What's the point?
So
Well,
IRC was just a website, but then you could just
well, it
use
was a
Discord on a
client.
website.
Yeah, I guess. I did have an IRC client though, and it worked properly. It connected to a server properly. It wasn't just a browser. I don't know enough. Someone write in and explain to me why IRC is different than using Discord. You know,
Yeah, I would like to know that too, because honestly, I couldn't tell you. I was in IRC chat rooms in my day too.
and also Twitch chat used to be based on IRC. I think it's not anymore. Probably not. At least it's not using IRC anymore. I think it might still be based on the same kind of thing, kinda.
And of
I
course,
don't
we're
know.
talking about internet relay chat and not international rescue committee.
I feel like the smallest amount of people knows the other one, and I think nobody that used ISC actually knew what it stood for. Well, barely anybody.
I definitely didn't know at the time, and I had to look it up just now.
Yeah, see, what did ICQ stand for, huh?
Well, I seek single men in my area.
What?
ICQ.
ICQ. How is what is Q, what? How does Q, what is Q, huh?
Come on, it was obviously a wordplay or to sound like I seek you.
It actually is based on ICQ.
Yeah,
You didn't know that?
I did. You
What you
didn't?
did? No.
Yeah, well, I always thought that yeah, that's pretty obvious because it's like if you read that out,
I
the
kind of wish I didn't know that.
I can't believe you just found this out.
I don't like this.
What do
Not
you mean?
because it's a homophone and that makes it sound like I'm homophobic for not liking it, just because it's stupid. It
What?
just sounds dumb to me. ICQ. Oh, that's so. Ugh.
Oh my god. What a like that's not the dumbest. I mean, okay, this is the early days of dumb names, but it's
I
not
get. I also feel like
that
pedantic
unique.
because nothing about ICQ felt like what I'm doing there seeking somebody. I already know the people that I add on ICQ.
Yeah, but you're seeking their attention all the time.
It's like it makes it sound like it was supposed to be a dating app.
Yeah, it does sound like it, doesn't it?
It just sounds like the intent of ICQ was that people would hook up over it.
That's what chat roulette should have been called. Even though no,
Is
actually chat roulette is pretty aptly named because you don't know what the fuck you're
mm.
gonna get and you're probably gonna regret it.
Yeah, it implies a sinister side to it that it's actually also kind of real. You should be prepared for the worst when you go on there, and you need a thick skin. I remember watching videos way back, and I don't even know what creators it was, but people going on chat roulette and doing things that were entertaining. Like some people were doing fun things, but then they would bump into people that half the people are just guys with their hand down their pants. That's just what it was.
Yeah, I think I've been only on Omegle. Like back in the day, I think I used just Omegle.
Isn't that the same thing?
I don't actually I'm not sure if Omegle and Chat Roulette were different services. I think they were, but they are the same principle. Problem
Yeah,
is, right now
maybe.
I can't recall having ever actually like I think I used it like maybe once or twice, very briefly, because I didn't really want to encounter anybody jerking off. And I don't think I did. But I don't remember who I actually encountered there.
Well, maybe you did encounter someone jerking off and then you push it out of your mind. That's why you don't remember.
I mean, that could be very well possible.
That seems like a healthy response. Okay. Yeah, speaking about wanking on the internet. Yeah, hi. We
I was really
I
curious where you
didn't
were gonna go with that.
I didn't know how to segue, you know. This podcast, who is this for? What is the content of this? Nobody knows.
Nobody should wank to this podcast, though. I beg of you.
On the other hand, I don't care. But please don't just if anybody wanks to this, please let this be on the other monitor and not your primal focus, the primary focus, I mean. You
That's
know.
those are your terms for whether if people really have to wank to this podcast, they should not do it as their primary focus.
Yeah, if people get into the mood and a podcast is on in the background that was an autoplay, that's I don't care. It's not like the podcast got them horny. If there's a football match running in the background and suddenly people get intimate or something, it's not like the football match caused it. It's just in the background somewhere. We're just like birds chirping outside a window at that point, and I don't care then. We're just birds in a tree chirping.
Yeah, that kind of describes this podcast quite well, just chirping birds. But then you're specifying this further. You're saying that people should not get put into in the mood of jerking off by listening to this.
Well, nobody just is sitting around looking at things. And then it's the birds outside the window that make, unless a very specific kind of person, but it's not like the birds make them like, wow, I could really use a wank right now.
I don't know, maybe because they call it the birds and the bees, maybe for some people birds awaken some kind of like
How
feeling
do
of
birds
ah,
and
we're
bees
I'm
get it on?
alive.
They're size wise, they're so different. That makes no sense. It should be the bees and the flowers. It's not like the bees have sex with the flowers. It's more like they're a cake faker. They're a care. They're like an assistant to flowers having sex. That's what bees are.
And
They're two immobile beings, and the bee comes, but it doesn't come. It just takes from one flower and goes to the next one. It's like, here's your delivery of one sex.
yeah, so
I
it's
hope you're
more
pleased. I'm gonna move on now. Bye. I'm gonna take some of your pollen and I'm gonna make some honey for my queen's children, who are probably also all my siblings.
okay, but all right, so by your definition, the bee kind of just assists in jerking off the flower.
Yes, like a telescopic extension of a flower's sexual organs. But flies also are. It's not just bees that carry pollen from one flower to the next. Like,
Yeah, it's
the
like
flowers are incapable of directly touching.
I just hate the mental picture that you put in my head because like I just had to picture somebody putting some sort of long tube on on their ding dong.
What?
Because he called it an extension of like the sexual organ of the flower.
Well, it's like a remote. It's like remote. It's remotely transmitted. It's like take this. It's like driving a remote control car, but it's driving on its own. It's like a delivery drone. There. That's a better
Yeah,
term.
yeah, that's a better term for delivering sperm.
Yeah, but instead of goods and food, it's delivering sex.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You know what that reminds me of this week? Somebody sent me.
What could that possibly remind you of?
No, nothing like fucking weird. Okay, let me talk. Okay, you know what? A little weird, but not as bad as the direction we were going in. Or actually, no, maybe just as bad. Look, I'll tell you, and then you be
How
the
does it get
judge.
worse? You're like, yeah, no, it's not like that. Except it's maybe a little bit like that, or maybe it's like that. Maybe it's exactly like that. Maybe it's actually worse.
Look, this week I played the game that made me think about artificial insemination of horses. Okay.
What games? What kind of games do you play?
I was playtesting for somebody. I didn't do this specifically because I wanted to play a game that would confront
Were
me with
you
this theme.
playtesting Horse Breeder Simulator?
I mean, close. Not. It's a horse management game.
A horse semen management game?
Not just the semen is getting
Not
managed.
just the semen.
Look, this game actually has
Hashtag not just the semen.
not just the semen, but that is part of what you have to manage in this game, where you basically have a farm and horse ranch basically, and you have to obviously go galloping around with the horse to train it to do like an obstacle course thing for the contest. And there's also a breeding aspect to it, where you get to have a station where you extract the liquids, and you artificially inseminate your horses according to what kind of breed you want to.
I think I haven't. I actually forgot I have an urgent appointment I need to go to.
Yeah, yeah, well,
Uh,
perfectly understandable. We can pick this up next week.
I might have an extended stay somewhere. I might actually need to.
You mean like more than a week? That's fine.
Uh,
We can resume this topic in 2 weeks. I'm sure it's gonna remain just as fresh.
uh, why does a game about horses need the element of extracting cum from horse dick? How detailed do they go? Do they go detailed enough that they need to have a disclaimer?
I don't know. The game looks very beautifully illustrated, hand drawn.
Yeah, very hand drawn horse weenies.
Yeah, well, in there was no horse dick in the prototype that I could see, but
Oh,
um
such a shame.
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, to be actually serious here, this is an aspect that farmers have to deal with all the time.
All the time. Like they get up every morning, they have their coffee, and they're like, "Oh God, gotta wank off the horse again. Gotta get that
Or the cow,
semen."
the bull, like
Yeah.
if depends on what animals you have, but like
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if they do that to cows, to be fair. But if you train race horses, I guess it has been a
No, they do that to cows too. If they have a bull that is like, they have bred them that they are very thick and make a lot of meat.
do you think they actually just extract the semen and then just like insert it
I'm pretty sure that's done. Yeah.
instead of just like putting the bull and the cows together in an area
It's
and letting them,
I'm
naturally.
100% sure that in big livestock farms, it's all efficiency based. Why keep a bull around that doesn't produce milk? It's kind of a waste of resources to have. Instead you have like one bull that makes a lot of juice, and then you stir that juice in. I don't know what to go. I'm done.
Yeah, you store the juice and you eat the bull.
Why does can Anyway? Yeah, moving on. What is your point?
No, I'm just horrified at farming, industrial farming, and all of that. So yeah, let's move on. Let's fucking move on. What about another topic for today, which to me has been almost equally frustrating this week, which is syllabification.
Oh, yeah, that's very adjacent.
Uh-huh. It's also about separating things.
Yeah, you know what you can't separate because there's no syllables in it? Come.
I'm fucking dead. I thought you were ready to move on.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm very jaded. I feel very cynical. I just want to see the world burn. But tell me about your syllables.
Oh, just reading chat saying, I'm sure a centrifuge could do something. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not gonna make come have syllables. You can do all the signs in the world and you won't get a syllable into come.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what has syllables? Presumably the words producing and
Yes.
battles.
Yeah, we're having some battles with production.
So, context, okay? I started reading Foundation by Isaac Asimov this week. It's part
Yeah.
of my book club. And I
Yeah,
read the
the
old
the the old Asimo.
Asimo. Yeah, and I just have this old book, and it has stuff that was syllabificated, syllabized. I don't know. The intro had like the words split up, and I noticed, me who has never read a book like that before,
Oh,
you know,
such a notice.
I was gonna try to make the joke that I've never read a real book before, apparently, because I've never seen this before, like split up into syllables like that. I noticed how the word producing was syllabized. I really don't know how you say that, but it was split into produc, and then ing was on the next line, and that kind of jolted my brain into horror because I did not think that that was the correct way to do it, and I kept reading, and then I found the word battles, which was split up into bat and tles.
Yeah, tilts.
And you don't look, if you say these words, you say pro-do-sing battles. Right? Right? Isn't that how you
What?
split up these words? When I was in school, I
Pro-duc-ing.
why do you split it up like that?
You take your left hand, you take your right hand, and then you say produce-ing. And that's how it works. And I don't
N-
know, that's all you need. That's all the empirical evidence you require.
no, you say pro-do-sing. That's my empirical evidence.
I I think we should just go to war, honestly. I don't think we can agree.
Yeah, I think it makes much more sense to have a war about syllabification than literally any other reason. Like people invoke like resources, not agreeing about who should own the land, disagreeing about religion, whatever. That's bullshit.
Well, what is so different about disagreeing about religion than,
True. Actually, this is the religion of language.
yeah, maybe you should just try to found your own religion based on simplification, and this can be your agenda, because this is probably the only way you're gonna push through your own syllables. It's not gonna happen with science.
No, I will instate a new syllabification regime where we syllabificate producing. Look, for real though. Like in school, at least when I was learning, like freaking obviously, like I was learning in a Romanian school as a kid, and they taught us that you split words into syllables based on just like what sounds like the right point to split a word, like you would carry over the consonant into the next sentence syllable normally, and keep vowels together as much as possible.
But who decides what's a syllable then? The only thing in my mind that would motivate me to split a word is the existence of a vowel.
Yeah,
But
and
if there's only if there's more than one vowel, because like hit doesn't or fun cannot be split because it needs like a vowel and a consonant.
yeah, like each syllable needs a vowel, but also the way I understood it is that it's the word is split to separate the sections that are stressed in pronunciation. That's why I would never think that I stop at produce and then take the ing later, because I always pronounce it as a sing, this
Why are they
ending.
so stressed though? What anybody ever ask?
I don't know. I don't think so, but we just learned to speak language and stress it out like that, you know? That's just what they teach you, you know? They don't tell you why they stress out the language, they just do.
Hmm. Anyway, what's your point?
My point is that I feel betrayed.
You don't like how stuff is syllabalized.
No, I don't. They don't do it the way I thought they did, and I feel betrayed.
Well, my next step would be to find out who decided, because I don't know who decides this.
What changes if I know who done it? I don't get to
Because
go
they
and
can
enact
explain
revenge.
themselves, you know.
You think? What if they're dead?
Well, then they better have documented it if they were serious about it. That's how shit works.
Fine, maybe I'll go and I'll
If
track
they
them
didn't
down.
document it, then they made it up and didn't give, then it's all just made up anyway. Then it doesn't matter.
Well, it does if you want to write a book or whatever, and you want to do it correctly, at least like
Yeah, but
in
then that,
their the general
yeah,
acceptance of correctness.
but any editor just runs that shit through some software, and you probably already did, and gets automatically broken up because every word processor does that anyway. But what rules do they follow, and why? Right?
I don't think Google Docs, which is what I use a lot, does any sort of breaking up the words.
Well, it depends. If you do block text, it does. I think it depends on the text formatting you use, because I think depending on the formatting, it basically just shoves a new word in the next line, and then you have a line that's shorter than the next one. But if you use, well, I don't know what it's called in
You
English, but in
mean
German we call it
justify,
block text.
the justify mode? That
Justify
doesn't.
what?
Come
I'm
on,
not
dude.
justifying anything. I'm just saying that there's formatting that's called block text or Blockschrift,
Shalama
which
is
just
just
makes the entire
being
text be like in a box,
facetious.
so the lines line up. It looks all neat.
Yeah, but it
That's why they're
doesn't
supposed to
break up
publish.
the words if you go that route. It just
I,
stretches out the spaces
well,
between
then you
the
probably have
letters.
to allow it to split words.
Well, I don't know how you do that. Maybe this is something to
It's called
investigate.
Textumbruch in German. I don't know.
Textumbruch.
Yes, because it literally translates to like text break around kind. It breaks the word so it can wrap.
I like how we ended that back at rapping.
Well, we added a letter to it though. Hyphenation. Yeah, so that's probably also something else.
Well, I learned today that I don't know how to use text editors. You learned what ICQ really stands for. We're even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it doesn't matter anyway because, as today's day and age shows, you can just have your own truth. So I don't know why you would care. I wonder if people that really do believe in these things, that these new truths that they invent for themselves and then heavily defend them. I wonder if those people are still passionate about people doing proper grammar. I was like, this is the thing you choose to be accurate about.
Well, they have to feel like there's control in their lives in some way.
Yeah, that would interest me though. If someone really is so contrarian to modern not truth, but like modern evidence, empirical evidence, it just believes some political ideas that are just so controversial and so contrarian. Do they still have some fundamental beliefs that, I mean, they still believe that a pound is a specific amount of weight and that a fluid ounce is whatever weight.
Well, not believing that would require too much of reinventing everything you live by. That's too much effort.
Yeah, like the foundations, the fundamentals of the literal thing you're standing on.
Mhm.
whether it were flat or round, maybe, because that would change some things like daytime and things.
They're just very they just care a lot about history. They just want to go back to the original belief that humanity held.
I don't know when they actually did hold that belief, though.
I think up to the Middle Ages, if I'm not mistaken. I think when no, because actually the ancient Greeks, I think might have some of them might have started figuring it out. I'm not sure actually.
Well, apparently in the 3rd century BC.
Yeah.
That's allegedly since ancient Greece.
So in the third century BC, they figured out that the Earth might be a sphere.
Roughly spherical, yes,
Yeah, but
which they
then
calculated as calculated the Earth's circumference, basically.
right. Actually, what I'm thinking of was the Copernicus thing, where who basically said that actually the Earth revolves around the sun and not vice
Oh yeah,
versa.
that was a huge no-no.
Yeah,
You
that was a
know,
big scandal. That's true.
that's also more difficult to prove, I think. I mean, not. I don't know if it's more difficult, but it's harder to make someone believe. I think than there are some very easy experiments to prove that the Earth is round. Hello.
I'm just thinking because like obviously also were doubting that until Columbus did that journey around the earth or whatever. Or was
I
it not Columbus but somebody else?
feel like there were people that believed it, and I feel like there were people that didn't want to believe it, just as we have them now.
That's true.
There's probably just like a sliding scale of who believed it and didn't believe it that goes back and forth. And now we're at the end again where there's some. I don't know, they're just a very loud minority. I think. I don't think there's actually that many people that believe the Earth is flat.
I mean, I really don't know numbers, but yeah, they are definitely loud.
I've never met someone in person, and I've never encountered someone online that I directly had a conversation with in text or spoken word.
Yeah, I mean, I could say the same thing, but I feel like I don't frequent that big a range of the internet as you do.
Yeah, but I guess I still am in a bubble because I don't go on Truth Social to converse with people.
Yeah, right. So still we're in the bubble that we are. It's
Yeah, my TikTok bubble is cats bapping each other to the sound of bing back boom 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 bam or whatever it was.
mhm.
That's
Bim bap bom
and
bom boom bop bam.
TikTok's about overconsumption
Yeah.
and borzois.
Borzois.
Yes, windhound.
Those are very long snouty boys.
Yeah, they do it for you. If you let them. They have the long snoots. If there's a pickle down a long pickle jar, they'll grab it for you. It might be covered in slobber and slightly eaten, but they'll get it.
Do dogs eat pickles?
I don't know why they would stop at pickles.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
well,
simplification. Anything else going on? Any topics that would make this podcast seem like it's about anything?
I don't know. Why don't you bring something?
Well, I don't know. It might be a very. I don't feel before the podcast. Okay, I looked at the latest Gamer Nexus video, which took apart the thingy, the announcement that Nvidia did about their new graphics card lineup and stuff. The 5090, 5080, 5070 graphics cards, the new ones. And I had a big old pile of salt that I was working through. I was so annoyed and ranty. I don't know
You're
if I'm
very
still that passionate
savory.
right now. I was very savory, very oversalted, in fact. I'm just very annoyed at how they market and choose to progress in development of hardware for gaming. I don't know. I'm very passionate about that because it annoys me to no end how terrible some games just run, and the whole state of that industry has always bothered me. How there's just like two companies. I mean, there's a third one. Intel is now doing shit too, but it actually doesn't really count because they haven't figured out how to do that yet. They are still trying to reinvent the wheel, and so far the wheel keeps falling over unless you have very specific circumstances in which it cannot fall over. I know they're really not just not there yet. They're making progress, but I don't know if Intel can really be considered like a third to break up this duopoly in which only one company really makes a product that can perform at the highest degree, which is Nvidia. And how they're now releasing graphics cards that still don't really, the mid-range still doesn't have 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is baffling. And there's already games that do struggle with having less than 16. And then Nvidia, instead of being like, okay, we're going to put enough VRAM on our cards so they can run, no, they are making software solutions that run on their AI chips crap that make artificial performance happen. So the initial performance tax on your hardware is lower. You need less RAM because then they'll just make up textures and frames.
Oh, it's
And
that shit where they were like, yeah, we're gonna upscale the shit out of every model, and
well, first they had
character
DLSS, yeah,
you
and
can put your
DLSS was
3D
like,
characters through this AI filter that's gonna make them look more realistic by adding more frames and by I don't know how else because I read that they want to make your like the characters in games look more natural.
I haven't seen anything about that, honestly. So you might know something that I don't. But the parts that I'm concerned with is like this. I feel like a bunch of people will already be familiar, but this whole evolution we have going on, where first DLSS came out like 2 generations ago ish, which is, yeah, it's more like 3 generations, I guess. But at first it was, yeah, this actually is nice because you have to run a lower resolution and you still get fairly good fidelity. And first, they had problems with ghosting because upscaling stuff causes like hallucinations. Sometimes there's graphical details that didn't exist before. Some detail gets lost in the distance, like fences and stuff are too small to be properly upscaled sometimes. And then they improved that through like two generations. We are now at DLSS 3. And then they introduced frame generation, which is like, now we don't just upscale your image, now we also make you have higher frames. But that's the part where I got really cynical. Like at first, it felt like, yeah, this is technology is getting quite far. The upscaling makes sense to me. But then they started to make frames. So they're like, oh, look at this game. It runs at 200 frames and it used to be really hard to run, Cyberpunk 4K, full ray tracing. This used to be like only the best cards could run this at like 30 frames per second, and now you can have like 120 frames because we just make up some frames. And it doesn't. I don't know, that requires that the consumer doesn't care about latency and inputs and anything. And I feel like a lot of that just was like window dressing, like some stuff that was, I don't know, it's just yeah, it's well put, post processing fake performance, and I don't like that because it doesn't drive improvements in performance and optimization in games. My initial fear was always that it's going to make games run worse because they'll just make some post processing magic happen that makes it look like it's not running terrible.
It
So
just
now they're demoing like, we they have a new technology in the newest line, which they haven't fully elaborated on yet, which is multi-frame generation. And they claim that they'll generate from one frame they take that you generate, that you get upscale then first. First you put on the DLSS upscaling, the super sample that shit, and then they can generate up to 8 times the frames from that.
Jesus.
So what, how does that work? You're just gonna imagine what the user is gonna do in those next what is gonna happen on screen in those next 7 frames after the one that you actually had?
Yeah, I don't really get how the fuck they can magic up these additional frames and make sure that they are like looking congruent with what comes in the second frame basically that the game puts out.
I wanna be, like, really extremely hyperbolically cynical and be like, "Yeah, next you make, like, a game out of 1 frame, and then AI is just gonna imagine what's gonna happen."
Yeah, like you just I mean, that's the wet dream of all these tech companies, isn't it? That you can just be like, "Oh, here's an image, you make my or like this prompt." And based on that, the AI algorithm needs to just generate an entire movie or an entire game or
Yeah.
entire whatever.
up just take the stick figure drawing, and then I'm gonna let AI upscale it into what it thinks I'm intending to do, and suddenly it's something entirely different.
Yeah, it's
And then
a
you just gotta figure out the bare minimum of what you have to input so the AI sees something that it will upscale and it's intended what you intended. But in reality, it probably wouldn't be what you intended. It would just be whatever comes out at the end is maybe good or not. And then you just throw that away and run that like a million times till you get something useful and you just waste a lot of energy. Because that's what it feels like.
yeah, but the thing I was talking about is called NVIDIA RTX Neural Faces, crossing the uncanny valley of rendering digital humans. I don't know. This is some video on YouTube that they also put out um
When was that?
4 days ago.
Yeah, okay. So it probably is part of the current media promotion stuff. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah,
But
they want
anyway,
to make like more like more hyper realistic faces on characters.
but that's
Um
probably then that's just sounds like it's focused DLSS with probably some elements that are specifically meant to improve faces then,
yeah,
I
probably.
assume. Which is we shouldn't discuss it in a way of yeah, probably. We don't know, I guess. But it's my point is that I'm just so frustrated that the whole industry, instead of being focused on making efficient GPUs that produce a good experience in gaming, instead try to fake a good performance to have a fake good experience. And then the issue I had is like my the latest experience I had that makes me now so annoyed at this is that I played Monster Hunter Wilds in the test, and they did a performance test and server test a month ago or so, and the game starts with frame generation enabled, and you have to turn it off. And it tells you when you turn it off, as far as I recall, that you shouldn't because it will make your experience worse.
No.
And it's like the citation needed, but it's been a while since I played. But it does tell you that you should have it on, and it runs so bad without the frame generation. But whenever I turn it on, it's because I cannot have the baseline performance to make it not bad because my graphics card, my 6800 Radeon card, that is not old and terrible. It runs most things very well, but that game is just Unreal Engine 5 mess, I think. That it looks terrible. Everything has like a huge trail of ghosting. By huge, I mean it's not like you see the entire room being filled by ghosts of the movements of a person, but you see fake character outlines or like wishy-washy ghosting. It just looks awful. Everything has like a trail behind it, and it just feels awful. It just feels like very rubbery.
And this is with the freaking frame generation on.
Yes. But obviously I don't get DLSS because I don't have an Nvidia card, which is the other thing, you know. And I have AMD problems, and I wanna like AMD. They perform good, but there's just a lot of software things that are not optimized for AMD, and AMD is not good in them because the drivers aren't as good. And NVIDIA just seems to be really favored, which is another element, but not the primary reason why I'm so annoyed at them for all of this stuff. Like, AMD is trying to make their own software, but why do we need another type of frame generation that is just worse? And basically, if you wanna have the best performance, you're still locked into NVIDIA. When you need frame generation to run a game, it looks a little bit better when you actually use the NVIDIA stuff.
Yeah, it's so annoying because it just reinforces this whole monopoly they're always kind of having. And
Yeah, it's a bit messy because it's just another argument. But in general, I just don't like that games like I really like Monster Hunter. I have hundreds of hours in Monster Hunter World. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite games in recent history. And I just don't like that the next one is coming out and it's essentially baked in to require frame generation if the performance is significantly better when it releases. And the general public doesn't have the high end cards. And maybe because it's a Japanese game, they maybe there's a higher market share of people that play this game on PS5, and maybe the performance is a bit more. I don't know. Maybe it is better on that. But Monster Hunter World didn't have great performance on PlayStation 4 either. I had to buy a PS4 Pro to run the game at 60 frames, and then not even always.
I don't know because I never expect that the consoles will perform better than the computers like you that are like in the mid range.
I guess I do because I assume that they spent a lot of time for a huge market share to have an optimized set of settings that are preset when the game releases, kind of where they tweak it to the degrees that it looks the best with what the hardware can provide. Meanwhile, when you're an end consumer, you have this seemingly infinite combination possibility of different hardware devices and stuff.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what to think about all this except for I guess Nvidia is putting out all these things to kind that sound kind of like, oh yeah, don't worry, you can make whatever cuz then we'll make your game look fantastic, or like we're going to have a magic button that you can press and your characters will look so human and real, and you're going to have high performance on every platform or whatever. And it's like, do we need to chase the hyperrealism, the you know, huge like scope of games that require this kind of performance? Or is it fine to also just have content that is kind of, more modest in scope but is more focused on what we can achieve with the hardware we do have? I guess,
I don't know.
it always
This
seems to be a bad thing to just, I don't know, not go with the tech, to go insane with the technology, you know?
I feel like flagship games, and I'm just using this term now for games that are like poster child games for new technology. They are supposed to benefit the most and look the best. Those games are rarely staples of the gaming community. They rarely are games that people keep playing for a very long time. I think the one that stands out to me right now would maybe be Crisis. Crisis was the game where it's like, yeah, but does it run Crisis? That, or like Far Cry 2, maybe. Yeah, that used to be games that had like outstanding things in them that were really cool and detailed, and that can only be done with enough processing power and graphic fidelity and all that stuff. You know, but right now, what are outstanding games that are fantastically well made in these engines that were used heavily? Somehow, Dark Tide is still used. In this recent show of performance, they used Dark Tide again. That's now, I don't know, 2 years old,
You
and
mean
they
for these
for
new.
demoing how well stuff performs. Yeah, Dark Tide came out almost exactly 2 years ago. No, 3 years ago, actually. November of 2022. And it is still a game that they use to show that, oh well, with this stuff we can get this many more frames, like a 10% boost in frame rate or whatever they claimed, by using some of their new technology.
I mean, I don't find that weird because it would like it makes sense that they would use a game that came out a couple years ago to show that now you can run that much better and whatnot. Sure, I'll take that.
Yeah, maybe. It just doesn't really feel like that heavy of a hitter to me as an argument. And I'm just saying that my point actually was going to be that it's not the graphical fidelity that makes games fantastic. It's the experience. Like, the last thing I think about is that this is the most graphically advanced ever. Red Dead Redemption 2 looks insane, but it's not really held up as the we look at this game as the be all end all, because that game actually runs fairly well on non super extreme hyper expensive hardware. It runs fairly okay. On the PS4 it already looked really good. And now on PC it looks even better, but I can run it really well on my 6800. And I don't think it would benefit from having hyper realistic face extra stuff. And then, yeah, Stalker 2 was just brought up in chat, which is, that game came out so sub optimized. It runs like absolute ass, that you need all these advancements to make it actually palatable for anybody. Without upscaling, that game is terrible. You basically shouldn't have released it at all, and that's not a good thing. It's not like, oh, here's this game that's going to showcase Unreal Engine 5 that will run amazingly if you fake the performance.
Well, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's an excuse for, I don't know, publishers and investors and whatever to be like, yeah, push out the game faster because we don't need to take as much time optimizing and fixing stuff. We could just push it out and cash in, you know?
Yeah, but they released that game. I mean, the devs were really stricken by by the war in Ukraine and everything, but some of them are still in Ukraine, I believe, even in development, and some of them moved out and are safe. But they had to delay the game heavily, and then they released the game with these graphical performance problems, but then also still had elements of the game that are vital that were simply not working, like the life simulation stuff that Stalker is very known for example, that NPCs simply didn't simulate their daily routines like advertised and supposed to be part of the game. And now at the point where most people probably have beaten the game that cared about it initially, some of them maybe will come back once those things are actually implemented. But then they released a game that practically wasn't actually complete, and it wasn't early access either. But it's I don't know. This is just the general state of gaming that I just very cynical about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also pretty cynical about that because I would even argue like if you don't care about putting out, the best version of the game that you can, people could still be cynical and release it, in the state that, let's say, Stalker was released, and people still bought it because they were riding the wave of the classic Stalker. So the business people's goals were met, that they wanted to make money off of this and cut their losses. So why
Yeah.
bother, like why bother make it better?
Feel like the root cause might not even be with the studio. It's also like an industry problem. I mean, it's anything in the world where you produce a product and at some point it has to be released or you run out of funding. And like if you want to be realistic and want to have a really sterile approach, like a very, what would I say, like unemotional, if you want to just be very strict and pragmatic, you would say then this game just should have not been released at all because they couldn't afford making the product properly. But we also live in a world where things are so rushed now that even cars get released with features that are not fully fledged. Looking at Tesla,
Hmm.
where you can have cars on the streets for years, which people bought built on promises that haven't been fulfilled still, which is bizarre. But this is where we live, yeah. And I just feel like this wraps back around to the NVIDIA thing, that if this technology that makes stuff more palatable despite not actually being done, are we living in a world now where we're going to have more and more things that allow companies and people to make things that are incomplete? And then we can basically sell a 3D printer so you can buy this half working vacuum and you can basically build the missing parts yourself that we haven't developed yet.
Talk about modding community or what?
Yeah, I feel like it's the NVIDIA thing is basically like a tool given into the customer's hands, but technically mostly benefiting the developers and the publishers that cannot fully fund a game to completion to make it playable despite all the optimization stage not having been performed at all in the company and the development of the game. Like you can cut that out and Nvidia will just keep inventing AI tools that complete the missing bits. And next you're going to have missing textures, and the AI is just going to invent the missing textures based on contextual clues.
Yeah, well, that's
Why
pretty
have face
funny.
animations? You just have voice lines that AI generated and they're just going to animate the face in real time instead of actually making animations.
Yeah, why have developers, building their skills over decades, trying
Too
to
expensive. Yeah,
to to
human hours are
keep,
too expensive.
yeah, like get rid of the human workforce. Just have some corporations with the where the money gets pulled into the CEO level, and just make it cheaper for them to, or like, rather it's like it's cheaper to produce the games, or it's less money that gets spent into the actual game production itself, because most of the money will then go into the
It
getting.
should still be all marketing, I guess. It's all marketing anyway. That will never go anywhere. And then the marketing is just AI generated things that might not even exist in that way in the game. We go back to trailers that contain no gameplay at all, which is how it used to be, I think. And like the World of Warcraft trailer basically showed a really nice cinematic, and that's how Blizzard, I think, gets partially so popular because they wait. weirdly enough, they have a really good CGI department for making animations, and those still look fantastic this to this day. Like the original WoW announcement trailer looks so nice. Like within itself, it looks great. But then the game doesn't look like that. Like at the time those were made, if you look at the alpha footage from World of Warcraft, you could see what the game might have actually looked like if they hadn't worked on it more, which is interesting and more akin to RuneScape, maybe.
Well,
But yeah,
yeah, you get. I mean, often these trailers that get released are just for the hype, but they
they're like in engine, yeah, but under 5 layers of post processing.
and cutting carefully, so that there's only the best angles, the most impressive moments.
Yeah, like what does in engine mean? Like, are they going to show footage from Stalker in the next Hello Kitty engine that's also game that's also made in Unreal Engine 5? I mean, that's also footage from that engine.
There's a what Hello Kitty game? What?
I'm making up a game that is couldn't be more different, in my opinion. But it's technically you could still advertise. I want to point out how ridiculous the phrasing is of this is in-game. This is not in-game footage, but it's in-engine footage. Because if you use an engine, there's a million games based on Unreal Engine. You could use anything to advertise the engine that your game is built on. Doesn't mean you
Yeah,
have to show actual game content.
it's just from another game.
Yeah.
Where did you go?
I went to my window. I'm walking around. I'm sorry. I'm agitated. I'm all
Oh
worked
shit.
up.
Shit, we got
I
him worked up.
ranted. Yeah.
Well, do I mention another game that I learned about that I think at least this is getting made, which is really cool?
Yeah, we should end on a not so depressing note. So whoever
Okay,
actually
then
listens
maybe
to
not
this and
this
maybe
one.
falls asleep.
Maybe not
Feel
this
like
one because it's not a cheerful game. It's actually
oh,
extremely depressing. It's just
oh.
that it reached its crowdfunding goal. So it's a game. I'll just talk about it. Maybe we end on something else than this because it's still
Yeah,
not
maybe we
that
can end on
cheerful.
something nice that the one person that we know listens to this and sometimes falls asleep to it doesn't have the worst nightmares
Yeah,
about
well.
CGI, AI generated nightmares.
Yeah, well, we don't even know if that person still listens to these episodes to fall asleep. But yeah,
Maybe
the
there's more
game
than
I'm
one.
yeah, maybe there's more than one, maybe there's none. But right, so the game I'm talking about is called Dreams on a Pillow, and it's a crowdfunding campaign that's still running for 2 days for a game about Palestine, basically. A game about the 1948 Nakba, which is basically when the Palestinians got driven out. Of like half of the Palestinians got driven out of their land. And it's basically when it all started, all this insanity in the Middle East.
Oh, that's a really heavy topic.
It is a very heavy topic, and the game basically like it's about like you are this woman carrying a pillow around, and it's based on like folk tale, an oral folk tale. So this is like I don't know if it was made up, but it's at least a story that there was this woman in during that persecution, during like when people were driven out. Um, by military, by Israeli or like Zionist military, and then like Israeli military once the state got formed, where her husband got killed in the Nakba, and she ran home to get her infant to run away from the danger, and she realized in the panic of all of that actually she had grabbed a pillow and not her baby, and
Oh God.
obviously could not go back, and she has to run away like that and try to save herself. And yeah, the game is based around that you are navigating, you're kind of doing the stealth navigating the world, trying to escape from danger and carry this pillow, and when you drop your pillow or you have to put it down, you start getting assaulted by nightmarish visions that kind of muddle up reality, and I don't know. It looks really interesting. It's done by somebody who still lives in Palestine and used to have like nut roastery that he can no longer work at because of the war in Palestine. And this developer also made another game over a decade ago called Lilia Lila and the Shadows of War. Uh,
Oh, yeah, you sense the theme, I guess.
yes. Yeah, that
Oof.
was made in 2016. So that it was also about the struggles of a Palestinian family.
Uh, Pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if that's something for somebody that likes to be confronted with the dark realities of Earth politics and consequences of those, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, apparently back then Apple rejected listing this developer's game on the Apple Store. And then the press there was a lot of controversy around that, so a week later they reversed their decision. um but yeah, I guess another game that maybe is gonna get actually made. I mean, they are still raising funds and they need much more than what they set in the, like, they want to make the prototype obviously with the funds from Launch Good, this campaign that they're running right now. But yeah, I'm interested because I like games that don't glorify the war. Like a lot of the most popular games out there do. Like, I don't know, from Call of Duty to honestly any kind of arena shooter in my book is this thing where I think it glorifies being, a soldier, like fighting each other,
I guess
being
so.
having badass weapons and killing each other, and that's cool and you're powerful and whatever. Well, you know, this shit is not fun. Being in war isn't cool. Shouldn't we, I don't know why we insist on living these power fantasies in video games so much.
I don't know. I think it's because having agency and control over what happens in the world, and around you, not being made to suffer the consequences of other people's actions, but instead having agency over changing what's happening to you. I feel like that's a big thing. That's the whole thing of humans wanting to be protagonists.
Yeah, I get it, and I mean, I obviously also do a lot of escapism in games and other stuff, but I also cannot avoid seeing that it is escapism.
Yeah, but that's a necessary part of dealing with all of this shit.
That is true. That is, I mean, we would go insane if we couldn't take refuge in some kind of entertainment
Yeah,
to
like a
make life
podcast that reminds you of
bearable.
the deeply depressing reality
Yeah,
of the world.
exactly.
Uh,
You come here and you listen to us so you don't have to take action. Anyways, okay, last thing. What is the last topic? What that we're gonna end on that will actually be cheerful? Because I'm not sure I have anything.
uh, well, I don't know. I'm still on and off. What did I do this week? Let's see. Maybe I can find something. I max leveled everything in Dark Tide. That's very fun. Uh, I made a character
Speaking of power fantasy
called.
games,
Well, yeah, obviously.
obviously.
Um, well, it's fun to help people play a game. If they suck, you can make it more possible for them to manage to get through missions and learn the game. That's fun. That's the small bits you can do in life, even in things that you do for your own recreation. Maybe you can do small bits that make other people have a better time. If you're good at a game that has a social aspect where you can influence another person's experience, like in Dark Tide, you can play a big old ogre or a zealot or something, and when they fall down, you pick them up, and you smash that mutie before it can smash your friend that you've only just met like 5 minutes ago when the mission started.
I mean,
Or
maybe
you.
maybe this is the thing that can redeem these power fantasy games. Not just that you live that, but it's the cooperation with other people, helping each other out. If people But I mean, the problem is that not all players do that because there's some very toxic players out there. But for those who actually use these games as a practicing ground for community and being
Mhm.
nice to each other and helping each other, achieving something together. Now that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I guess. And just before this podcast, I was playing a little bit of Warcraft Hardcore because I think it's fun to play a character that if it dies, you do it over because it brings out the most enjoyable part that I've ever experienced in World of Warcraft when it first came out, which is the sense of community leveling because every zone is always populated from level 1 to level 60. There's always people around. You can always you just in this game mode, people really do utilize community. When death has consequences in World of Warcraft, people will be like, "Hey, you are also here. Let's just make a party and do this difficult thing together so we can both be safe." And everybody's always really nice. Like you have a party with somebody, you do a hard quest, you manage to not die, you get your objective done, and then you have each other's backs. It's really fun to look out for each other. You buff each other with your special little buffs that makes them more smart or more fortuitous, fortified. I mean, and then you tell them stay safe. They say, "Oh, thank you so much," or maybe they say, "Oh, I have to do this quest. Do you also have to do this quest? Maybe we can stay in a party together because this feels safe, and I want to prolong this party we have so we can enjoy the game together longer." That's why I love playing World of Warcraft Hardcore because it is very easy to have it's so easy to have social experiences with other people while also just not having a huge bar. You're already in the world, you run into somebody, you can collaborate easily. You don't have to be intimate in any way. You can just share and talk as much as you want to them. And you both just get to enjoy your time more and feel better about playing. I don't know, it just makes it feel very alive and nice. And that's a positive note, I think.
Yeah, it's
Which is what
great, and I'm kind of. It makes me kind of sad that I didn't like start playing WoW back when I was a teenager, so I could have shared in that. Or
it's literally the only way that I enjoy playing World of Warcraft. Any other way makes me cynical and annoyed.
you mean the hardcore mode?
Yes, the mode that means that if you die, you die. It's not about the end game, it's about the journey way more than in any other way you can play the game. And then that way it means more and your experiences feel more true as well. And there's a better sense of community. When someone passes away, I have a log, I see anybody that dies on their character and what they died to. And also I have a little notification sound that I see whenever someone dies. So anybody that dies in that,
Has a
it's not like
Wilhelm scream.
no, it's not a Wilhelm scream. It's actually a fart noise that I put up. I modified the add-on I use to track everybody that dies, and whenever someone dies, it does.
Oh my god! I was just kidding when I said that there was gonna be some kind of like sound effect that you set up, but of course you freaking did, and of course
And
it's a
sometimes
fart.
there's like a whole group of people that go into a difficult dungeon and they mess up, and all of them die, and then you hear like there's like 5 people died. It's like, oh no, Jeff, Steve, and Hippopotamus the Magnificent, and Fartbutt the Butt Juggler. They've all passed away to Bolongolol the Mega Troll. And
Fart
you're like,
butt
oh
the
no,
fart juggler.
and then you look at the death log and you're like, oh, I can picture their experience and their journey in my mind, and that's the magic.
Yeah, and
Or
you
you're
let
like,
out
oh, I know
a
this
fart
enemy.
in silence to
Yeah,
remember
well, it's not
them.
in silence, is it? Some people do set up a Wilhelm scream. Other people have like also the game. I think it's actually hard coded into a hardcore World of Warcraft now. They have servers specifically. Whenever someone reaches level 60, there's like an applause of a crowd.
Wow.
And
There's a
then
congratulations,
yeah.
congratulations,
And some
congratulations.
people have when someone dies and the entry comes up in the death log, they have a golf clap,
Wow, that's a
which
rude.
is
That's mean, man.
maybe a little
That's
more rude.
a little, come on, come
Yeah.
on, a little too
But
much Schadenfreude.
I have a more purely positive thing, weekly tip of the podcast, or maybe monthly tip. I don't know if I'll have one next week. Cute cat videos. Look up Jack Spicer on TikTok. It's just a cute little cat with hats and sometimes a little neckerchief, sometimes a little vest because I think they live in Wisconsin and it's cold now.
Oh,
And
a little
it's just
vested cat.
a little boy that inspects, lives on a farm and inspects the farm, makes sure that the hay bales all don't cause any ruckus. Just going through the harvested fields, calling into the distance and meowing. They they do the best thing that anybody that does animal videos does, which is the person filming doesn't really ever speak, and it's all just noises of the cat that actually has a little microphone on his little neckerchief.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
so you can hear all his meows perfectly crisp and his little stomps through the snow and the hay.
Oh,
And
crispy
it's just
stomps. Oh my god, that's beautiful.
it's just perfect, comfortable cat content for you to look before you sleep. Or if you just want to look at a cute little cat that looks like he has a skull face because his nose is black, but then around the eyes it's white, and it's just a perfect little boy. Yeah, there you go.
The
That's
the
my tip.
ghost cat.
Jack Spicer. 2 words.
Shout out to
Written
Jack
like you imagined.
Spicer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't set up a collaboration with Jack Spicer.
I
We're,
don't need to. He speaks for himself.
true.
Well, I talk about him, but you know.
That's like that's related to also what I've been thinking about this week that I didn't mention yet, but I have a couple friends, like a couple. They're a couple too.
Oh, you have a couple friends that are a couple. Wow, are they?
Yeah, yeah, and they have been looking for um a place to buy like farmland for like ages now. They want to basically start some kind of sustainable farming thing and live there. And it's been really hard to find a place, but they were asking me this week, like, yeah, we're looking at these other houses, and because we might not be able to afford it alone, what if we actually had friends to like share the costs with and buy it and move in together? And I was like, damn, there's no fucking way I can one afford that, to move into the countryside while I have, I have duties here in Hamburg that I need to actually show up for in person at least some days of the week. But damn, I would kind of love to like escape, that whole idealized bullshit fantasy of, yeah, living on a farm, having animals that can run around free and you don't just like incarcerate your cat or dog in your apartment. Being able to do gardening sometimes, which feels like a more likely way for me to get my physical exercise because it's more purpose driven than just, I don't know, going to the gym or doing like yoga or something. It would feel much more rewarding.
There's something really cathartic about stuff like garden work. I guess any work with a purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, gym has a purpose for me, but I know that for a lot of people, it's not that easy to feel like that.
I
So
don't know.
other
I
ways.
don't really manage to find that motivation to do stuff like that.
I get that. Like, I cannot. I really like cycling. The problem is, I don't like cycling without a destination, and it has to be work or something. I need to go somewhere specific. Then, yeah, but I cannot cycle for the purpose of cycling. That doesn't work for me either.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I guess that some people might find intrinsic joy in cycling without a purpose or going to the gym, you know, and
Yeah, they
like
do for
but
sure.
but I guess I find that hard to experience, but I feel like at least back like when I have tried to go and help friends on like a farm, I also enjoyed the process because it yielded a result at the end. We had, I don't know, the crops were harvested or the garden was cleared out of weeds or stuff like this, and that is just more rewarding. And also it's more rewarding that you're outside doing these things because it's enjoyable to be in nature or with friends doing that stuff.
I get that vitamin D in you.
Yeah, I'll
Gotta wear
get
sunscreen.
yeah. Yeah, I gotta wear sunscreen too. I don't know. I just been thinking about like having some kind of community that you live with and also be near nature. That it sounds like, that's not the worst thing, but it's also not really feasible. And it would obviously not be easy either, so
Mhm.
but who knows, maybe one day if I keep having friends like this who actively want to start stuff like that, maybe one day I'll
You
be able
wanna
to
you wanna
join them.
you wanna start some shit, huh? Huh?
I gotta they're starting some shit.
Yeah. Trying to start some shit with me, huh?
Yeah,
Well,
you wanna you wanna
get those hands up.
take this outside?
Take this outside into the garden. Wanna root out some weeds, huh? You wanna start some shit?
Mm-hmm.
You wanna plant some tulips, huh? Yeah, is that what you want?
That
Some peas,
reminds me
maybe?
of that joke. What was it? What's better than roses on your table?
What?
Tulips on your organ? Roses on your piano. I mean, there's this joke.
I don't know. Yeah, but one day I also dream of having a goat and a donkey. That would be great.
Yeah. A goat, a donkey. I wouldn't mind piggies either. Geese. I mean,
Geese?
geese.
I don't know if they wanna stay over on their way to Canada or wherever they go to the Nile.
Yeah, I just set up a goose inn just for them
Mm.
to like stop on their journey.
Make a coven with some ravens by giving them unsalted peanuts and over time making them feel comfortable around you. So whenever you're in danger, they come and peck anybody's eyes out.
Oh hell yeah, that's true. You could make crow friends,
You could.
corvid friends. Yeah,
Sometimes they bring you little presents, some bottle caps or something. If we end up in the apocalypse, maybe that's actually quite valuable.
yeah. If we end up in the Fallout universe,
Hmm.
we'll really rely on our corvid friends
That
for
would
our
probably be cool,
economy.
to be honest, and eat ass jerky.
Ew. But I guess I mean anything goes in the apocalypse.
Anyway, I think that's a good point to end.
Yep, it's great. Thanks, Shalama. See ya.
Well,
See ya in the next one.
thanks for listening. Thanks for having me. Love you lots, dear listener. If you're already asleep, sweet dreams.
Yeah, bed. Good bed to you.
Good batch. All right. Bye bye.